1. Backstory. I used to be a big fan of cycling. It was a lot of fun and gave me a reason to get out of the house once in a while. I wasn't that competitive though. Couple mountain bike races and marathons, but that was about it. I became friends with one guy, Ronald, who always brought his two sons Marcus and Michael to the races. Ronald has an ex-wife, who is the mother of the two boys. She is a hellspawn. She once went to Marcus's, this happened when Marcus was 9 years old, school and took him to the airport so they could leave the country forever. Ronald was able to catch them before they could leave the country. She recently tried this again, but this time with Michael. I was there when it happened. Let the shit show begin. We were at the 22 Tartu Bicycle Marathon last weekend. It's the world's third biggest bicycle marathon. The weather was god-awful. There was a 100% chance of rain. I should mention that there are 3 types of courses in the marathon: the 80 km, the 40 km, and the 20 km. The 20 km start is the first to go. Michael went to that course with Ronald because he is 11 years old, and isn't confident enough to go on the 40 km course. You normally finish the 20 km course just when the 40 km starts or just after. That means you have plenty of time to chill, go eat something, wash your bike from the mud, etc. 11-year-old being 11-year-old, Michael decided to sit in the warm car and play on the phone. Ronald went back to the finish line to grab one of those 0% alcohol beers. When he returned, Michael was gone, so was his stuff. By that time I had just come back from the 40 km track, muddy and exhausted. We knew it was Ronald's wife, so Ronald throws me his phone while he mounts my bike to the car's roof rack. We were planning to leave as soon as Marcus was back. The only instructions were to look for the contact "that bitch" from the saved numbers. I had just found the number when "that bitch" showed up with 2 police officers. "There! Those are the men who kidnapped my son!" Ronald whispers to me, "Red alert." We were both Trekkies, so... "Hi, Karen. I thought it was my turn to hold the kids." "What do you mean? I have the full custody of them." "May we ask, where's the older child, sir?" "He's still on the track. His ETA should be in around 30 minutes. Police Officer 2 comes over to me to question me about the situation. I just say that I'm a friend of Ronald, and I know both kids came here willingly. At the same time, I hear Karen yelling to Ronald in the distance. Police Officer 2 finished my questioning and went over to the others. I just went to the other side of the car to finish attaching my bike to the roof rack. Meanwhile, I heard this. "He was just in the car to keep himself warm. Can't you see that it's raining cats and dogs?" "No, he was locked in there." "The doors were unlocked." By that time, I was finished detaching my bike, so I thought I would join the yelling. "Also, if the doors were locked, then how did you get him out?" I think Karen was about to say that she broke him out, but wouldn't want to say that next to the police officers. I just opened the car door and got inside to change clothes, so the next part was mostly unheard by me. When I got out, it was already getting slightly physical. She was really close to pushing him, and he was really close to slapping her. Then Karen pointed towards the 0% alcohol beer can sitting on the floor of the open trunk. "Look, he's been drinking and driving!" "It's a 0% beer they sell it here, near the finish line." "That is indeed alcohol-free," says Police Officer 1. "Well, then he must have some alcohol in the car." Police Officer 2 then says, "Taking a closer look won't hurt." They look through the car. The alcohol I knew about was 1 can of beer in my backpack that I had bought at the store when we went to the marathon. I lost a bet to a guy, and the winner's reward was 1 can of beer. I know, quite the crappy reward. The officers didn't even look towards my bag, knowing it was mine, but they opened one of the closed compartments in the trunk. There was a bottle of Absolute vodka just sitting there, probably from the American car show we went to in the summer. We had to sneak our own stuff in because the drinks sold in the festival were expensive. Karen had the well look on her, while the 2 officers were just calm. One of them showed us the bottle and asked, "Let me guess, some kind of festival?" "Yeah, something like that." "Well, we understand that. Sometimes you forget stuff in your car." No, they're lying. They most likely bought this to drink it here, and who knows, maybe even forced my dear son to drink it. That's a lot of maybes. We can't make sure they would do that. Hey, speaking of the son, maybe we should let him say what he thinks. Where is he, Mrs. Karen? He's in my car. When we get to her car, the first thing she does is unlock the doors. Without any fear that I might just get my face ripped off by a screaming light pole, I just said, "So, you accuse us of locking Michael in the car, but you do it yourself?" Karen freezes, but says nothing. The officers look at each other. Michael jumps out the car directly to Ronald. He said that he is cold and that the ventilation wouldn't go on. Karen freezes once more, and the officers look at each other once more. Police officer 1 says, "Hello, Michael, can you tell me, do you think your dad would drive drunk and offer you alcohol as well?" "Never, he doesn't drink when he's with me. He once told me that he wants to spend more time with me so he would drink less." Marcus, just finished, saw us from a distance and came to look at what's happening. The officers asked him the same thing, and he answered pretty much the same. He also added that their mom sleeps with more men in 1 month than the average prostitute does. Karen was furious after that, and tried to attack Marcus. The officers stopped her, but one of them got their nuts terminated. He's fine, for anyone wondering. Karen got charged with attempted kidnapping, physical assault towards an officer, and some more stuff I can't remember. We went and took some warm tea from the stand, packed everything together, and started our 4-hour drive home. 2. So where I live, there's a small army base, and around it is a housing estate where the families live. Part of this estate was sold to a couple of housing applications, and I live in one of those. The army families move around a lot, so people in those houses generally move every 2 years or so. Some a little more frequently, others less so. There's a row of 4 terrace houses directly across from me, and one of them was empty, ready for new tenants. Here's where we begin. I took my daughter to nursery, and then went shopping for some new clothes. This was 9 a.m. I get back at 11:30 a.m. and see a large moving truck in the street. To avoid them, I go to the other side of my property. I suffer from chronic anxiety and tend to avoid most people. I go in the front door and take the new clothes upstairs to sort. Whilst I'm there, I hear noise from my back garden and door. Looking out the window, I see a man with a large toolbox trying to open my back door, a woman behind him looking furious, and the guys from the moving company standing around with boxes looking bored. I run down the stairs and open the door, meaning the guy, who I guessed was a locksmith, practically fell through the kitchen door into my kitchen. He was surprised, of course, and after looking around he was confused, because clearly someone already lived there. The woman then sighs dramatically and thanks me for finally turning up because they've been there since 8 a.m. trying to get in. She just wants to get her stuff in so she and her kids can sleep. She waves the moving guys forward and then goes to get her kids out of the car. I'm busy trying to stop the moving guys from coming in with boxes, and her 2 kids, about 3 and 6, come charging into my garden. I've got a slide, swing, small trampoline, and Wendy house there for my daughter to play with. I yell at them all to get out of my garden and stay away from my house. One of the movers looks in the window to my living room, sees all of my furniture in there, and waves his team back to the truck. His team leader pulls out some paperwork and begins going over it. The woman starts yelling at me, telling me I was a liar and a thief, among other things. I've lived in this house for 4 years and tell her such, but she's having none of it. She gets right up in my face, screaming at me, and I'm having trouble not bursting into tears and running away. Or decking her. The locksmith tries to calm her down and she starts having a go at him next. I call up the police station office. There's one in the housing estate, but it generally only caters to the army people and such. I figured calling them to deal with her was the best solution. They arrive after a few minutes and take the woman aside. Her kids are still playing on my daughter's things, so I tell them to get off and go to their mother, because those toys don't belong to them. They go reluctantly, and when their mother notices, she begins yelling again. Apparently, those toys aren't mine. They were put there by the army for her kids because her husband is such a wonderful soldier. That this is her house, and I'm just some squatter trying to steal it from her. This is when the movers come over and tell her this is the wrong address. She's moving into number 4, and this is number 14. She goes very silent, grabs her kids, and leaves the garden. I call out to ask her if she's going to pay for the damage done to my garden. Grass torn up by her kids and the movers. My door, from what looks like footprints trying to kick it in, and the scratches from the locksmith. My bushes by the gate, movers and her yanking at them whilst waiting for the locksmith. She tells me no, because she's done nothing wrong. Which is when I inform her that I have cameras installed that would have seen the whole thing. I ask the officers if they would like to view the footage, and one of them watches the whole incident take place once I bring out my laptop, which both cameras are linked to. And he says he doesn't have anything to collect the footage just now, but he'll come back later to get it. He also tells me that he will have to report the women's behavior to the base, as a family's bad behavior can have repercussions for their soldiers too. It's now 5 p.m. The officer was here collecting copies of the footage in case it was needed, and might be shown to certain army officials as an example of her behavior. The husband turned up about an hour ago, and there was a huge argument across the street. Everyone could hear it, but not exactly what was being said. Either way, this family hasn't exactly had a good start to their time here. I can only hope they move away soon so I don't have to deal with that woman again. 3. My dad and I have been looking for a new place to live for a couple weeks now. We looked only for 3 or 4 bedroom places, including those modern new ones. We found these people on a renting website and set a meeting to look around. We had our meeting planned for Tuesday, but an hour before they rescheduled it for Friday. First red flag, small but red flag. When we arrived at the place, my dad, as he was born and raised in that area, was pretty confident about its surroundings. A park, not much traffic in the mornings, convenient buses, that kind of stuff. It was a new and modern building, so it wasn't cheap. We didn't care though. We had our family living close. We knock on the door, and the first thing we see is a woman in her 40s with, I kid you not, pink fluffy Gucci slippers, pink pearly pedicure, a haircut that screams, "Bring me the manager of your manager," and a formal dress. She opens the doors wider for us and seems quite nice, at first. We get inside, and as we enter, our warm welcome happens to be a man in his early 40s with a beer belly, looking more like a wannabe CEO rather than a stereotypical American right-wing gun owner. He was spread the full length of the couch, not paying attention, until we made our presence a bit more obvious by introducing ourselves. The pair seemed to be thinking we broke the barrier of client-landlord straight up. We all greeted each other with words until it came to handshakes. As a person with Asperger's, handshakes are not quite nice for me. They put their hands out, and when I gestured that I prefer not to, they kept insisting for the next 10 seconds, until I uncomfortably gave them both an awkward handshake. Second red flag. We started walking around the house. The place looked very nice. Only thing was, their pre-bought beds that made their rooms look smaller. They insisted not to remove them if we were to rent it, despite me needing a desk and such. It was all a bit weird until it came to conversations. That's where it becomes even weirder. Me, minuscule elephant, D, dad, EW entitled woman, EM entitled man. So, any thoughts, questions? It's quite nice, but we'd like to know a bit more. How are you guys with the rent? Monthly or once per 2 months? The couple looked lost. We both noticed it and both looked at each other, knowing what that means. You can put it once per 2 months? It all depends on the owner. Some make it that way. Some even make it a once per year thing. Don't know how that is with you. Well, I guess once per month. We felt very weird at this point. How can you have zero awareness on how the renting agreements work? Third red flag. Once again, we sort of overlooked it. We spoke a bit more, and one of the most uncomfortable things you can imagine is to hear an adult who is a potential landlord crack dirty jokes about their past tenants, brag about how much they make from other places, and laugh obnoxiously in front of a potential tenant with their teenage kid. Fourth red flag. Why didn't we just leave then? Alright then, how are you with pets? We have 2 medium dogs. Oh, well, we're fine with them as long as they don't ruin the floor. Well, we trim their nails regularly, like every normal pet owner. We get it. But this floor is wooden, we don't want it to be destroyed. She would feel so bad. We didn't know what they meant, so we kept asking questions. So what are your plans with the agreement? What are your rules?
This place is actually being bought for her daughter, so whenever she will feel like coming here, you are to let her in. Same with my wife. She will come to the apartment every once in a while to check on everything. They will have the keys. You know how it is with young people these days, destroying everything.
After that sentence, the pair laugh obnoxiously while my dad puts on his most realistic fake smile. My dad would never find these jokes funny. He rarely ever finds things funny. My dad and I felt really weird vibes from these people. As much as we understood checking on the place, to think that a stranger will come into our house with their own keys and go around, that would have been insane. Okay, then, well, what about the length of the agreement? Don't get us wrong, but our daughter will need this place at some point. We don't know when, but we will have to evict you when she does. The feeling I felt when she straight up told us she will evict us in such a manner was the most uncomfortable way I felt about an adult in my life. I could see how the agreement looked in my head. But what about the payments from that month? You mean like halfway up? You'll just pay for the whole month. It shouldn't be an issue for you, right? After all, you can afford such a place, so why not pay me for one more month? No, I don't think that's how it works. We're not staying that month, so we practically shouldn't pay.
Oh, come on, we're not bad people. We're already going easy on you with the prices for such a luxury. 1 month after, it won't hurt you. Our daughter will need that money for her university. That will be a good start.
We asked them to contact us if they had a sure buyer, so we know that one is off the list. I hope they will call as soon as possible. We wrapped it up, left, and the first thing my dad said when we left was a long, "Holy shit." 4. It was a while ago, on the 27th of May 2019 to be precise. Why do I know the exact date? You'll find out later. My dad went to work for the second shift of his job that day, which is from 12 p.m. to 6 p.m. He works for a company that tests and rings up radiator fans for various cars. So when my sister, who is 12, was about to leave school, it was up to me to fetch her and bring her home, while my mom was in the kitchen. She has anxiety when she gets to drive, so I had to take her place. Now, before I continue, there's a little thing I want to explain about what's going to happen, just to get you in the environment. My sister goes out to the middle school at about 1:20 p.m., and from about 1 p.m. to 1:30 or 1:35, the road where the kids go out is closed to cars in order to allow entry and exit to school buses. There are even 2 signs that say this, but most people utterly ignore them, and janitors don't want to go and position the road signals themselves. Also, policemen get there to control traffic only once a week. The result? We often get invaded by cars while waiting in the middle of the road. Most of the time, it's either a touch-and-go experience, meaning the car is only passing through and that's it, or it's a resident that wants to enter or exit the road. Some other times there are insistent people who try to pass through and either ignore our signaling, or just U-turn and that's that. But sometimes, rarely, there are people who cross the line and annoy everyone waiting in the street. And guess what? Our entitled mom, EM from now on, goes on that list. Now that day, while I was waiting along with a friend of my mother's, who was waiting for her twin daughters, my sister's best friends, we noticed a massive blue Audi trying to make its way in the road. I obviously signaled it to go backwards as the road was closed. Also, other people signaled the driver to go backwards, just like I did. Did she listen? Spoiler alert, no. Instead, she came forwards to seek parking for her car. Note, I always go to the neighboring square with my car at about 12:55 p.m, as I know it's getting packed afterwards. Otherwise, I would be forced to park further away. And she was like that for about 7 or 8 minutes before doing that. After seeing that she had no intention to back off, I decided I had enough, and at 1:28 p.m, I snapped a photo of the car with my cell phone for evidence. She ultimately parks her car, a bit messily, but she parks it. When I took my sister and was about to go home, uh-oh, here came EM. Dun dun dun. A slightly slim Sinti woman coming towards me. For those who don't know, Sinti are people of Romani descent. In my own personal experience, this may not apply to others. They always have a rich lifestyle, very expensive stuff, while looking down on others. I did know in that moment that stuff was about to happen. "Excuse me, did you take a photo of my car?" "Yes."
How dare you? Are you crazy? Cancel that photo! She was not Italian, therefore her Italian was quite poor. Can't do that. Cancel that photo, I said! Rules are there for a reason. Cancel photo! Did you read the sign over there? It says forbidden access to cars from 1 p.m. to 1:30 p.m. But you can't do that, referring to photo. I can. Law is equal to everybody. That's it. I'm suing you. She goes back to the car. Basically, she went nuts and thought she was above all of us, and decided to get there with the car anyway. Or is it just me who thinks that? Don't know. But I'm sure she did it on purpose because her kid goes into the same school as my sister. So she must have known the no cars rule and chose to break it. Well, I was speaking to my mom's friend who agreed that she just went full wacko, and we thought that was it. Well, it would have been, if EM didn't want to give me a parting gift of idiocy. She lowers the window. I am going to traffic warden to sue you. Feel free to do that. I've got evidence anyway. Evidence of what? That you weren't allowed to be there. That road is closed between 1 p.m. and 1:30. Then EM drove away, muttering incomprehensible gibberish. For a while I kind of feared that she really went to a policeman to sue me. Or that she brought manpower or her husband to her aid. Being a Sinti, they tend to stay in a closed community, supporting each other. But luckily, I heard nothing of her ever since. By the way, I know the date in detail because I still have that photo, with detailed date and hour. 5. My brother-in-law was severely injured in an industrial accident in 1977. He fought Social Security and Workman's Comp for 15 years before he received both. In total, he received $250,000. Since I'm unsure of the conversation, I'll pass on what my late sister told me. This will be brief. Here's the cast. Lizzie, my marvelous sister and my BFF. Tony, the love of her life. Bill, my narcissistic entitled father. Bill borrowed $2,500 from Tony, saying he'll pay them back later. 2 years later, Lizzie went to him and asked him to return some of the money. I don't owe you anything. In fact, you owe me more. How do you figure that? I raised you. I took you to the doctor. I fed you. You still owe me for all that. He didn't actually do squat, our mother did. Get out of my house. You're my father and you're supposed to do that. You still owe me. You've been paid in full. Don't ever come out to see me again. Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to The Impractical Proudness of Parents. Hi, Pop. Number 20. And thank you very much to everybody who allowed me to use and sent in stories for use in this video. Okay, as this is the weekend, I'll keep the outro weekend-lengthed. I just want to say thanks to everyone who has been a subscriber here for over the years, and I'd also like to welcome all the new subscribers we got in the past few months that helped push us up to the 70,000 mark. We're a little bit over there now. Okay, and with that I'm going to head off for now. So until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourselves.